Happy Sunday. I'm already mentally on a beach, so you guys get to control this entire show. That's why I didn't even do my hair today. I'm like, what's the point? Mexico's too humid to curl it anyway. All jokes aside, we're going to get through this next maybe hour, maybe half hour. Again, you guys dictate the show. I'm Kelly Stewart here on WagerTalk TV. This is last call. That means we're taking you up until tip-off. First game tips off in about 58 minutes. Some nice top 25 action going on today. Well, at least one side of top 25. UConn should have been in the top 25, but yeah, it's been a little rough sledding. St. John's, who I got to see in person back in December, sitting in the number 10 spot, 4.5-point favorite today. We're going to get into that one. Number 13, Purdue, right after that, takes on Indiana, and then FAU takes on number 22, Memphis, around 2 o'clock Eastern. Again, you guys totally dictate the show. How it goes is your participation. If you guys have a question, do me a favor, go to wagertalk.com/odds and give me the rotation number, the number to the left of the game, because some of these college basketball games are really hard to find. Now, this isn't your normal Saturday where there's 400 plus games between the NBA and college basketball on the board. Well, at least that's what it seems like. But we do have a nice slate today. Probably 15 or 20 games. So drop that rotation number so that VR, who's going to be coming up next, can find the game quickly. We also got Brian Power joining us. He is going to take all of your college basketball questions, and that's because he's been sitting atop the leaderboard right now, sitting in third place over the last 3 days, and we'll get to talk to him here in just a few minutes. Let me check in with the producers and see if VR is here. No VR. I have a feeling VR did not get the memo on the new time slot. That's gonna be my guess. I'm gonna send him a text, you guys, because we used to do the show at noon because it was a NFL
knowing
Sunday.
VR, he's probably talking at a computer screen while no one's actually logged in, and then he's gonna be like, "Oh wait, you guys said I was supposed to be there at noon."
Yes. Well, technically 11 a.m. Eastern. I just shot him a text. We're going to get him in here because you guys love him. He talks all things UFC, NBA, college basketball. Yesterday was a really great show. We had a ton of stuff, and I had a nice little 3-in-1 day myself. So I will take that. Maybe we can replicate it today. Let's get into a couple of these games here before we get to Brian Power. The game that most has my interest peaked anyway is UConn St. John's. It tips off here in just a little bit, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, so 56 minutes or so. And I like the St. John's team. As I mentioned to start the show, this defense was electric when I saw them in person. K-State burned them for 7 or 8 threes in the first half of that game. But I'm going to tell you, that moment, my buddy Chris Thurston and I looked at each other at halftime. Mid-second half of that game, we go, oh my God, Rick Pitino makes great adjustments. He made great adjustments in that game, so much so that they actually covered the game spread, even though they were down at 11. And that is because this defense was able to absolutely stifle Kansas State. And that is what they do. They have a couple ugly losses. They lost to Georgia early on at a neutral court, and they lost at Creighton and at Villanova. But outside of that, this team has been great. Now, I know this is a revenge spot for UConn. Back on February 7th, they did lose at home to St. John's. St. John's is a 4.5-point favorite today, but I'm going to tell you guys, I know some sharp people that I respect that said, hey, take the 5 with UConn, now down to 4.5 if you've got the WagerTalk odds screen open or Odds Logic. But I do not like UConn in this spot. It seems like every other game, they're coming off a loss, right? Lost to St. John's, go on the road, beat Creighton. Then come in, lose in overtime to Seton Hall, then off a nice win over Villanova. We're going to get into this one a little bit deeper. No bookmakers today, but I did ask for a text to see if we can get some help. And I have a furry friend who just decided to join me. She's like, Mom, I thought we were going on vacation. So if you hear any squeaky toys, it's the beautiful of live TV. I hear him. He's ready. VR, I apologize. The new start time for the show. I should have reminded you. I knew you were sitting at the computer anyway. So thank you for joining us every single Sunday. Yesterday was great. Yesterday was great. Like you said, Guys, what VR likes to do, whether you're here on Last Call or in the steam room, bring your list of the games that you already like. Penn State was on my long list, VR. You guys confirmed it. I didn't end up tweeting it out, but about 5 minutes before tip, I went back, looked over my list, and I go, man, VR liked Penn State too, huh? Ended up getting a nice outright winner. So guys, remember, have your list ready for the show. Have your questions ready. Drop them in the chat. That way we can get all of them answered up until tip-off. VR, all right, 8:39, 8:40. Air Duck 23 wants to know. Seton Hall, Xavier. I love it. Giving us that rotation number. Appreciate that. Even here on a Sunday with a smaller slate. Listen, let's talk about the Big East that is no longer, right? Nah, I guess they're still the Big East. They just don't have football anymore. So weird to me. But let's talk about, I mean, it's just still so weird to me all these years later, all of the conference realignment. But let's get into Seton Hall here. Talk about this game. Seton Hall had a nice overtime win against that same Connecticut team, VR, that I was just talking about. But they had lost like 8 or 9 prior to that, right? But congratulations to them. And then, of course, they get the doors blown off of them at Marquette. Kind of in a letdown spot. Shaheen Holloway, rough sledding here for the Pirates. Talk to me about Seton Hall, Xavier.
Well, I would expect that it would be one-sided Xavier money, the way Seton Hall has looked, the way they've not just straight up, but against the spread. They've covered 3 of their last 10 games, having won only 1. And usually a team like that's never going to get any money, especially from the recreational bettors, especially when you have the recency bias on the Xavier side. They come in having won 3 straight, 4 of their last 5, 3 straight covers, double-digit covers, winning -7 covers, -12.5 cover, -3 cover. And here they got to go just on the road and beat Seton Hall. But that's just not the case. I see nothing but two-way, like, balanced action for this kind of game. Like, obviously, it's 60-40, 65-35 in favor of Xavier, but you got a 9-point spread. Like, with that kind of number, it should be a lot more one-sided. You're usually going to see so much more money on the Xavier side. And more importantly, the recreational bettors will be teasing it down. Like, they'll be taking those 5-point teasers. I don't know why they do it, but they do it in college basketball, just like they do in NBA. And they usually will look like, for a team like that, that's like a 6 or 7 point favorite, bring it down to where they only got to win by a bucket or 2, 1 or 2 possessions. And that's not really happening here with the Xavier side. And I'm not really sure why. Is it because they're 3-7 team on the road? Maybe. But I don't get it. The other thing that sticks out a little bit is on the total. You're getting a ton of over money. Over. They're really betting this game over. But none of it is sharp. None of the guys that I work with have bet this game. None of the groups that share stuff with me have bet this game. So it looks like it's just a public type of game. And that's why you're not seeing much movement on the line. You don't see the books giving it much respect at all for any of that really total money. And like I said, the side isn't as one-sided as you would expect. Personally, I don't like that game at all. Like, I think if whoever asked that, if they have an opinion and a conviction on it, I think they should follow their instinct and bet the side they like, because I don't have really anything to sway them one way or the other. Again, I'm looking at now I just logged into my sharpest book to see maybe if they shaded it a particular way, and they haven't either. It's kind of like we opened 9, we're keeping it at 9.
Let's talk about that. So I have the Hard Rock here in Florida, right? And several of the Vegas books I can't bet at, just like you. So I just don't even have those on my screen. But I have a couple of local ones that I do find really interesting to see what they shade. Can you talk about that for like some of our audience members that maybe don't live in a legal state? I know we're not supposed to talk about these things, but that's reality. So some of these books do shade towards certain ways because they see sharp action coming on their side, or can you kind of explain how that works?
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, there was the pinnacle bias. I mean, if you didn't have access to sharp money, if you didn't have access to like real information to confirm whether the reverse line movement is legit or anything like that, a lot of guys that tried to read the market, tried to read line moves, try to figure out to confirm some of their leans. Most would just look at the pinnacle number. And if the pinnacle number had, -9 and most local outs or credit outs had -8, you knew that the pinnacle line was the sharper line. Like, that line should be 9. It shouldn't be 8. So for whatever reason, either they haven't gotten hit on that favorite at -8, or like you said, it could be in a city where the team that's being playing is the dog or the favorite, whatever the situation is, to where they know they're going to get nothing but that kind of money. Like when I was in Philly booking, I knew I was going to get Eagle money, nothing but Eagle money. So every Sunday, when the line was 6.5, my line was minus 7.5. If you were sharp enough to come in and take the plus 7.5, I was good with it because I had more than enough bettors that were going to lay the 7.5. So it didn't matter to me. I would let any sharp bettor come in and take the best of it. Good, you're getting a point better with me. Great, bet it with me because you're going to help eliminate some of my risk. I'm going to have 100x the amount of money on the Eagles at minus 7.5. So you come in and take Team B at plus 7.5. Thank God you're helping me a little bit, and I'm getting 11 to 10. So all you did is balance some money out for me, and I get to collect that VIG off the balance. And that happens still because there's just so many credit shops as well. Even though, like you touched on, a lot of the books that, you know, they don't like sharp action. They don't like anyone that could get closing line value. It don't even matter whether you're beating them for money. It's, are you getting closing line value with them? Because it's kind of like card counting. They know if they watch the film and you're placing your biggest bets when you have the advantage and you're placing your smallest bets when the house has the advantage, they don't care whether you're up money or down money with the property. They know that you know exactly what you're doing. And as long as you sit there long enough, you're going to be profitable. You're going to take their money. It's the same thing with sports betting. If they see that you're continuing to get closing line value, where you're laying minus 5.5 and the line's closing 6.5, closing 7, even if you're down with that book, they're going to drop you more times than not if it's one of those books that just doesn't want any sharp money, because they know it's just a matter of time. Like in a short sample size, there's a lot of randomness involved. You could be placing great bets and lose over and over and over again. But after a big enough sample size, the law of big numbers is going to come into play, and your mathematical certainty to turn a profit because you're beating that closing line value. Well, with a lot of books, you could take advantage of that by using those sharper books because you're already getting closing line value. If the originator like Bet Online has MMA line like on the UFC at minus 245, and the square outs, the ones that won't book sharp money, has 225 minus 225 because they're getting all dog action, then you know that you're already getting closing line value, that the Bet Online line is the right line. That's the number it should be. You could easily take advantage of that. That's what placing a good bet is, taking that favorite at minus 225, whether you like it or not. I mean, obviously, if you like it, it's a better bet. You should bet that way. But if guys that are scalping, guys that are middling, to them, it doesn't matter what side they like. They just know that that's the right line. The sharp book is what the number should be. So they simply, that's why a lot of the guys that scalp in middle, what ends up happening, and it happened to me, you end up losing with the sharp book and winning with all the square books. And the problem becomes, are these square books going to pay me? If they're like credit shops, if they're not legit outs, you know, that have to pay you, they could cut you off, but they have to pay you. You know, the Caesars, the MGMs, the places like that, they'll pay you and probably cut you off. But what ends up happening is you lose with the sharp book because they have the more accurate number. And in a situation like that, you could make money just doing that. There was like I said, it was called the Pinnacle Bias, the Pinnacle Shade. It had many names. And there were a lot of people that made a ton of money just following the Pinnacle number. And they do it not just with sides and totals, because that's easy. Anyone could see that and do that. But more importantly, you really want to make some real money. I'm going to share a little secret here. Look at the props. Look at the props. That's where you're going to make a ton of money, especially if you don't have a huge bankroll. So you don't need to be betting, 5 dimes on a prop because you ain't going to be able to get it down. But if you're, a nickel better even, and you could get that down on a prop, dude, look at what those props are at those sharpest books. Compare it to those square books. And where the sharp book is, that's where the square book should be. And for whatever reason, they're slow. You could easily take advantage of it. And I see it all the time. With prop scale, I see it all the time where the points, like over 18.5 points, and they're at 19.5 or 20.5 because it's usually the bettor's bias is towards the overs with props. So if you see that a sharp side has points over on a player, 17.5 with the under favored, and then the square shop has 18.5 with the over favored, rest assured, You're getting a good number by going under 18.5 at plus money. You're getting so much the best of it. If you could keep finding spots like that and just manage your risk correctly, dude, you're a lock to make money doing nothing. You don't have to handicap. It doesn't even matter. You know, like I do, there's a handful of guys out there that make a ton of money that don't care about the teams, don't know any player on the team. It's irrelevant to them. All they're looking for is inefficient numbers. That's the disconnect between professional bettors and recreational bettors, or even those sharp bettors that are fans. The disconnect is that the predicting the winner becomes irrelevant. That's not the job. The job is to identify a number that's off, bet that number, take advantage of it, and then if the market moves to what you thought, you placed a great bet. It's the same thing with any market. You know what I mean? Like, you want to buy a crypto, you want to buy a stock at a number that then goes higher than you. That's the goal of it, right? You want to be able to sell it to someone because you're thinking it's going to be worth more in the future. That's why you're buying it. Unless you really, want to hold for 10 years, most of us are buying something today because we think we could get more for it tomorrow. It's the same exact thing with the betting market. You're betting -5.5 because tomorrow you think it's going to be -6.5 or 7. If you could look at it that way, it becomes irrelevant on what the teams are, what the players are. You keep finding those inefficiencies and there's nothing the book could do. You're going to take their money long term. That's the key. That's how I use the sharp books. The key is identifying them. And luckily, like places like Odds Logic, you pull that up. And again, I don't get anything for it. I'm not promoting it for that reason. I tell it to my guys because I have a hookup to give them a week free just so they can see what I'm talking about. And I let them know these couple books, put the opener of them and then compare it to, like we say, the square outs, and you could easily find positions for yourself to throw some money down. Just do that and see what happens. And more times than not, they're going to be happy because they made some money for handicapping nothing but the betting line. That's how I use those sharp outs. Again,
so we
you don't
talked
have
about
to beat them, beat the squares. That's it.
Yeah. Yesterday we talked about it, me and Steve Merrill. So I have it on my Odds Logic because you can basically set it up how you want it. I have it Superbook, FanDuel, Circa, DraftKings, Pinnacle, BetWar.
That's it.
Sports 411, South Point, Heritage, Buckeye, Jazz. That is how mine looks.
Everything covered.
Yeah, that's how I like to be able to look at my screen and say, okay, here's the books that I find sharp. Here's a couple of the square books. And here's how I want to be able to find inefficiencies in the number. Like Steve said, you've said, we've all said, there's no reason hardly at all to be able to buy points. If you have enough outs, you're going to find that 6 versus a 6.5. You're going to find that 5.5 versus a 6. And if you can get those little half points here and there, guess what? They're going to add up to a lot more wins.
Real quickly, Kel, thank you for bringing that up. And I know everybody comes for picks, and I get it. That's what we want. But at the end of the day, if you're not,
we've got picks coming. Picks are coming.
Exactly. If you're not betting correctly, it doesn't matter. The picks are going to do absolutely nothing for you. Like, if you're not getting good numbers or you're not bet sizing correctly, the picks are going to do absolutely nothing for you. But Kelly brought up a great point because I see it all the time. I look in the back end and I see guys buying points. Dude, they're doing it in like NBA, in college basketball, where they're going to score an NBA 240 points. What's that half point going to do for you? It's bad enough in the NFL when I see them do it. They'll take a point and a half on a total. So the total will be 51 and a half. And they'll buy it down to where now they're laying 150 to win 100 because they have over 50. Dude, you don't have over 50 anymore. Like, you paid 150 for it. If you paid -110, now you have over 50. But you don't have over 50 because you're laying -150 to go over 50. So what you're saying ultimately is that it has a greater than 60% chance, because the break even at -150 is 60%. You're actually saying that it has a greater than 60% chance to go over 50, but that doesn't even have a greater than 52.5% chance to go over 51.5. How's that even going to happen? And what planet is that going to happen? That there's a 60% chance, greater than 60, it goes over 51, but it's not a greater than 51% chance, 52% chance that it goes over 51.5. Like, what's it going to land on? 51? Sure, it's going to happen once every how many games, but it's the most foolish thing you can do is buying points. Unless you know what every single half point is worth, and then you say, wait, I should be paying -122 for this, but they're only charging me -120. Then you buy it. I buy half points all the time. And I write in the analysis what my bettors, my subscribers, buy up to -121, buy up to -123, because that's what the true price should be for us buying this half point. If you get it cheaper, buy it. If you can't get it cheaper than that, don't buy it because we won't have the same bet. That's the key. If you don't know what every half point if you don't know what going from -5.5 in college basketball to -5 is worth, don't buy it. Don't buy it. And in totals, don't even think about it. And when I see that, I'm like, why? What is this person thinking? Buying a half a point on it from 138.5 to 138. Seriously? You're going to pay juice for that? It's hard enough to overcome laying 11 to 10. We're looking to try to lay -105s. I'm hunting down books that'll give me -105 like they're a gold mine for me. And you're willing to lay -115. We can't beat 110 at times. You're going to beat like the guys that have so much experience and have such a network and so many resources have a difficult enough time beating 110, -110. I can promise you this, the books that just like they did in blackjack, where now blackjack pays 6 to 5 in so many casinos, and you can't beat that game no matter, even if you're a card counter. That's why they did it. It's like sports betting. If they went to 6 to 5, where we have to lay 120 to win 100, 90% of every betting syndicate would be wiped out. They wouldn't be betting sides and totals anymore. They would be looking to middle and scalp. I promise you that. No one would be able to beat -120. So why are you trying to do it? Again, not to go long because I know they want picks, but you need to do that. Learn that. Don't ever buy points unless you know exactly the price you should be paying. Sorry, Kel. You just brought up a great point.
This is all part of what I just did a segment in November with John Hoagland, one of our social media managers at WagerTalk. And he was like, hey, I want to talk about some of these different things. And we're at the Westgate and we kind of went over some of this stuff. And I said, the thing that I want WagerTalk to be, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I haven't made these mistakes. But the one thing I want WagerTalk to be known for is to sit here and say, we want to help make everybody be a better. And that's how we're going to do it. You're right. You can give picks till you're blue in the face. We can hit 62%. I mean, you could do that. But if you're bet sizing incorrectly and you aren't using money management and you are buying bad numbers or paying for a half point here and there, you're going to lose long-term. And that's the reality. So I want to set all of our audience up for success. They are here to get picks. They are here to be educated. I hope so. All right. Text from Art really quick, and then we'll hit a couple of these questions. I know that there was a question about Ohio State, UCLA. Yep. Lewis, if we didn't know, Ohio State has been on the do not bet list for at least a month and a half now, 6 weeks. They are so infuriating. I will say this. Art texted me from the Westgate Superbook, 2 public sides today at the Superbook, UCLA and University of South Florida. So those are the 2 public sides. So look, even so, I don't know if I can take the Buckeyes, especially off that really ugly loss. They look enticing, but boy, I don't know. 3 sharp plays, VR, UConn now down to 3.5, Purdue now up to 4, and South Dakota now up to 10. And you guys always ask Art when he's on the show what his favorite play is. His favorite play today is Manhattan +5. VR, do you have anything to confirm that? Any opinion on UCLA, Ohio State for Lewis? Because again, I understand why Ohio State might be the side situationally today, but I just can't trust this team. They infuriate me.
Dude, if I tell you that it's the most heavily bet game already in the back end, and it's usually an early game, like one of those more prime time early games. Like I see like Connecticut St. John's has a ton of money where it's, so heavy on St. John's, very heavy, 7 out of 10 at least on St. John's. The money, meaning not the ticket count, the money. That's what matters most. But UCLA is like as one-sided as you're going to get. They're betting that one like they already have tomorrow's newspaper, and they saw UCLA won this one by double digits. They are hammering the UCLA side, and they're betting it with the over. Not as heavy. I thought it would be really one side on the over, and it would be kind of like sharps versus the public, because you see that totals dropping. It's going down to 139. The sharper shops are even charging juice to go under 139. So the sharp side is under, and you have a little more over money from the betting public, but it's not as one-sided as I would think for that kind of game, because they usually, again, parlay it, favorite with the total. But that's not what they're doing. They're just betting UCLA. And more importantly, they are teasing UCLA. It falls under that category where it looks like all they have to do is win the game. Just bring them down to where it's just a bucket, and all they have to do is win the game, and you're going to cash a ticket. It's a terrible bet. It probably win. They'll probably win at home, but it's still a terrible bet. You don't want to be making those bets. You may, again, if you're only placing one bet, then make it. All that matters is you pick the right side. And if you're going to bet tomorrow, the week after that, the month after that, the year after that, then it really does matter that you don't place bets like that. It's nothing but one side of UCLA here as well. So, yeah, that one sticks out a lot. Yeah, it's scary to bet Ohio State on the road.
They have not done right by me, VR, at all. I think at one point in time I was 0-6 with this team. Then they won one game for me, and I think I lost the next 3. They have been so frustrating. I liked them versus Michigan last Sunday, and I was very happy that I did not end up betting them. And like I said, they just got their doors blown off by Northwestern at home, 70-49 there on Thursday. I get it. It's gross. With all of the things that you just said and all the things that I know that I'm going to hate myself come 5 p.m. when they're down 25 at some point late in the second half. It's going to be what it is. Sometimes you just have to hold your nose and understand you got to take the gross teams. All right, we got about 3 more minutes. I'm going to bring in Brian Power. You're going to go. Do you have a steam room today? Yes or no?
No. We had a long one yesterday. Went through so much college basketball, NBA, boxing, UFC, NHL. So yeah, today it's just a little college basketball, a little NBA. We confirmed with South Dakota with Art that bet that earlier. And here's another one for you guys real quick before I go away. 852 Northern Iowa plus the points and the under 127 in that game. And also some steam on Canisius plus the 12.5. Hope you guys do damage, whether you follow or fade. I really do. And as Kelly said, hope you become sharper bettors. That's the goal. And do some damage today. I know Steve's coming up next. Stick around, because Steve's always got good stuff to share. Thanks again, Kel.
Hey, thanks, VR. Joins us every single Saturday and Sunday here on Last Call to give us some insight behind the computer screen, as well as what's going to make us better bettors at Greek_Gambler on all your social channels, at Greek_Gambler7 on TikTok. VR puts on a ton of free content, you guys, all over the place. His Steam Room's free at least once or twice a month. If you guys have not hopped in and asked him some questions, you are missing out. Brian Power, welcome into the show. Let's get some of these college basketball questions answered. I know these guys want picks, but sometimes I got to just let VR do his thing and let him just go on a tangent and remind people where they're screwing up, because I need to hear that myself every once in a while. You know, somebody who lacks discipline in their daily life, as you can tell. I have too many margaritas on National Margarita Day. Didn't feel like curling my hair. I'm going to Mexico. I'm already on vacation. Is Brian Power muted? I think he is.
Am I muted? I'm not muted. Can you hear me? All right, there we go. I'm a little, could you back me up, Dan, a little bit? I see my face a little too much in the thing there. I'd like to be backed up.
Just got to scoot back, VP. Just got to scoot back.
Back me up. I don't want to see my face. Here, you want me to here? Oh, well, there we go. Okay, how about we do that? Is that good, Kelly? Is that good? There we go. All right, we're good to go.
You guys tell me.
I was going to put my Steve Merrill face on, actually, when I was hyped. It was hyped as a Steve Merrill appearance there by VR there. I was like, were they expecting Steve? Should I put a mask on?
No, that was yesterday.
Yeah, I know. I lack discipline, too, at times, Kelly. I wish maybe VR could have given me a lesson. Mark Zeno tried yesterday morning. He said, do not bet Illinois, you fool. And I did. I got the best of the number, plus 9.5. Unfortunately, Kelly, I should have waited for plus 44 because that's what I needed there. But overall, it was a great Saturday. Thanks to everyone who got that morning wager deal. Mark and I combined go 7-5, 4-0 with plays rated 4% or higher. And I hit the 5% on Arkansas. So it was good.
And that's why you're here, because you are on the leaderboard and you are required to be on the leaderboard if you're going to be on my show. I want the best of the best. As you mentioned, I did ask your partner, Mark Zeno, if he wanted to join the show on Saturday, but he was too busy coaching Little League. All right, let's talk about a couple of these games with BP. If you guys are asking questions, we're going to keep the show going. If not, I'm cutting the show off and I'm hitting the road because I'm in desperate need of a tan. Football Coach 13 said, I'm nervous about taking the Temple over, but I can't jump ship now, can I? Have they just been cruising towards the over here, BP? I'm missing out.
This was I believe it or not, I was ready to talk about almost everything under the sun, and the Temple and our listeners throw us for a curveball. The Temple over, I have no opinion on that. I will say what the last thing VR said about that Drake Northern Iowa under. I know this wasn't the question, but I'm going to just piggyback off what he said. I really like that play, the Drake Northern Iowa under. These teams combined to shoot 17 of 32 from 3 in the first meeting. There were still only 118 points scored, but that kind of three-point shooting. Drake obviously last in the country in adjusted tempo. So if you're looking to play a total, I don't know. That Temple total is really high at 163, probably for good reason. But I would actually bet a low total under I think that's if you're looking to
Here
bet
we
a total
go.
today.
I got the answer for you, and I knew that there was a reason for it. It has been cashing. It's cashed 10
It's 10 straight.
games.
Yeah,
10
there we go.
straight.
Yeah,
So,
10 straight.
Everybody wants to jump on, but you're right. At some point in time, you jump off. BP, that's a good question. So St. John's second half has been absolutely electric for me since that K-State game, right? They have cashed now 19 of their last 22 second halves. That is just monstrous. Now, I know everybody today likes UConn. Lots of guys I respect like UConn. But I think at halftime, I'm going to make a real decision here. When you're riding a hot streak like that, like this Temple over, cashing 10 straight, do you continue to ride it until it loses? Or do you say, okay, today's enough. This total's just too high?
Kelly, I always like to jump on the tracks and get in front of that trade. No, I have this weird disease in my brain where I'm like, no, this same thing can't keep happening. Now that I have the Temple profile over, I will warn you of these 10 straight overs. All the over-unders were lower than this current number. The only one that was close was a game against FAU, once closed 162.5, and that was an 83-81 final. So me being me, I would be scared to bet that over, to be honest with you. As far as the St. John's UConn game, which you mentioned, Kelly, I looked at that. I don't have a very strong opinion. I lean towards UConn. You look at the first meeting, and it's funny you brought up how St. John's is totally different from last year. Last year, they had great first halves and lousy second halves. This year, it's been the exact opposite, like you laid out. And the first UConn game was true to form, right? They were down double digits early. They come back and win the game. If you like UConn, you're going to hang your hat on the fact that you were up double digits. You won the rebounding battle in that first game. But here's the scary thing about betting UConn. One, they're not as good as they've been, obviously, the last two seasons. And two, St. John's was still able to come from behind and beat you despite going 4 from 19 from 3 in that game. I know St. John's is not a good three-point shooting team at all. So, if you're UConn, you're probably saying, hey, we can win the rebounding battle again. St. John's is probably not going to shoot well from 3 regardless. But that kind of kept me off. I looked at it, and I could make a case for either side in that game. Lean towards UConn because just naturally I lean towards underdogs when in doubt. But, yeah, St. John's second half, it's an interesting situation. I would concur. If they're down again at half, I would probably look to bet them live.
Yeah, BP, I'm a dog better as well. And it's been an interesting year because I've been betting a ton of favorites for the most part. Yeah, I had a couple dogs yesterday. I had Arkansas, small dog, BYU, small dog. West Virginia got their doors blown off in the second half after only being down a few at halftime. But teams like Houston, who've been great in the first half. Kansas State, here's a good one. Robert Whitcomb wants to know, K-State is laying a little pretty penny here, guys. Makes me nervous as a K-State fan. I'll say this. That road trip to Utah, i.e. playing BYU and Utah, just really kind of derailed things. K-State was rocking and rolling, if you guys remember, had lost 6 straight. Drew Scott, that's what I call him because he has 2 first names, comes into the K-State locker room after the Baylor game, as you remember, to say hi to some former Baylor coaches, and he tells K-State, hey, your season isn't over, and all of a sudden they rattle off 6 straight. Nice wins over Kansas, Iowa State, Arizona. Now, again, I thought they needed to go 1-1 there in Utah to be able to keep their March Madness hopes alive, but if they can win their last 5 and make a run here in the Big 12 tournament, BP, kind of like the Cats' chances to sneak in maybe the first. Right now they're sitting on the first 4 out, it looks like. But your thoughts today on Arizona State? K-State already beat them back in Tempe back on February 4th. I know it's hard to beat a team twice. 6.5 seems a little steep, though.
Does. That was that run, obviously, where K-State completely turned their season around, Kelly. They win the 6 in a row, as you know. K-State is such an interesting team because you look at that 6-game stretch, they look as good as anybody in the country, quite frankly. I don't think that's hyperbole, but as you know quite well, there were a lot of new pieces in the early part of the season, did not mesh well initially. They were a team I was riding. We talked about that earlier. Do you keep riding it or do you look to fade? Kansas State was a team I did back once or twice during that 6-game win streak. You mentioned the poor road trip out in Utah. Both Kansas teams struggle out in Utah, as a matter of fact, in the Big 12. I would look to the over in this game. I think Kansas State's going to be able to put up some points. That's what they did in the first game. They had a lot of fast break points in that game. Arizona State, they struggle to defend. They turn the ball over a lot, which is going to only give Kansas State some extra opportunities. I concur that the 6.5 is too much for me to lay. So if you really want to drill down, what about Kansas State team total over? It's high. I think it's 76.5, but I think they could get there against this Arizona State defense. And if they
K-State's
cover,
going to happen.
that's probably what's going to happen.
Here's the thing. Here's the keys to K-State winning this game. Don't turn the ball over and make your goddamn free throws. I'm pretty sure I have a shirt that says that somewhere. But it is actually a fact. Sorry for that on a Sunday. Jerome Tang, my head coach, would not have appreciated the GDs this morning. Exactly wants to know your thoughts on Bucknell. BP, you know the times I pay attention to teams named Bucknell? Yeah. In late March when they sneak into the tournament and then upset teams named Kansas. This is not a team that I follow. Of course, I don't follow the Patriot League. Too many leagues to follow. Do you follow this league? And do you know anything about this Bucknell team playing Army today?
Bucknell was probably my best win of the entire college basketball season a couple weeks ago when I played them as a short favorite against American. I was struggling there. There might have been one or two others that rivaled, but they blew the doors out of a undermanned American team at the time. That was a rocking chair winner. So I think Bucknell is the best team in the Patriot League. No matter what the standings say, they're a better team than American U. American U is such a fraud. They won another close one yesterday. I have not seen a team win pull them out of the fire quite like this American U team. That's a fade for me. So if you're not paying attention to the Patriot League, fade American U in that conference tournament. They're not coming out. As far as this game, Army, who just beat American, as a matter of fact, I look here. I would lean towards Bucknell, although again, 6.5. These Patriot League games, more often than not, end up very close. I mentioned that I had a route. That has been the exception to the rule, but it would be Bucknell or pass for me. Bucknell is the best team in that league, and I think at home they can show it.
Bucknell or pass. Guys, if you have a question, drop it in the chat. Chris Duggan wants to know, FAU at Memphis. This is an interesting Memphis team because there was a point in time I mentioned the second half there with St. John's. Memphis second half was doing pretty good there for a minute, and they kind of got derailed. I think it was versus Rice. I'd have to look and double check where I went wrong with this team. But when Memphis is hot from three-point land, good night. It is over before it starts. They did just come off an ugly loss to Wichita State last Sunday. Now here's an FAU team, BP, that I'll be honest with you, I don't really follow the American Athletic Conference in college basketball. FAU, if you remember, stifled K-State a couple of years ago during March Madness. And, then they lose their coach. When your coach goes elsewhere, then what happens? Obviously, you got to rebuild. I have not watched either one of, I should take that back. I've watched a lot of Memphis. I have not watched any Florida Atlantic this year. Talk to me about this team. Is this too many points for Memphis? Or should I maybe wait and see it half again? Maybe I can get back on that Memphis second half train.
I do not bet Memphis. I think Memphis is overrated as any team. As far as top 25 teams go, they're there because they're just way better than everybody else in this conference, and they've been able to rack up. But they did have an impressive non-con. I thought a lot of the stuff in their profile though was unsustainable. Memphis is a team I'm absolutely going to look to bet against in the first round of the tournament. Just to put things in perspective, I don't even have them power rated as a top 40 team in America right now. I just think there's a lot not to like, but here's the problem if you want to take the points here at FAU. You mentioned Memphis. They're very good at shooting the three. That is very true. They are fourth in the country in three-point shooting percentage, as a matter of fact. And what does FAU, what are they not good at doing? Defending the three. They're second to last in opponent three-point shooting percentage. So if Memphis is hitting their threes and they're at home, then I think FAU's dead in the water. I would look to the over in this game to that point. Again, I don't want to lay 9 with Memphis, but I think there's a good chance that they're going to score a lot of points. And if they're scoring a lot of points, this game probably goes over. If you guys caught a video I did on Thursday for that Florida Atlantic-Wichita State game, I said to take the points with Wichita State. Both teams went into that game red hot. I said, why would you just not take the points with the team that's playing as well as Wichita State had been? And sure enough, they win it outright. I called it a look ahead for FAU. It was. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond from that loss in the look ahead spot here. I think we get a lot of points in this American game on Saturday. We got
some more questions coming up. We'll get to Lewis's question here in a minute. BP, for those who've never heard you, well, they've been living under a rock, but talk to me about you and Zeno's show and where everybody can watch it.
Well, every day or Monday through Friday, Zeno and I do the morning wager. It's a very fun show where we give you 3 free picks every day on that one. And yeah, it's a great time. It's growing. We appreciate the comments, positive, negative, neutral, whatever. We enjoy it. Show's been growing. It's getting real popular now. And just check it out. It usually drops, or it always drops before noon Eastern every Monday through Friday. And you can also catch me, if that's not enough Brian Power for you, I do the Power 5. There's no Power 5 today because I knew I was going to be coming on here to talk every game. But Monday through Saturday, we do the Power 5 as well. So yes, it is not hard to find me here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Please click subscribe.
Yes, please give us some likes. Like Brian said, if you hate us, tell us in the comments. You love us, tell us in the comments. We love comments. We need likes. That's kind of how this works, guys. We're here for you. Lewis wants to know, Brian, rotation number 859, USC. He likes the over 152.5 here. This is where it gets like a little dicey for me, BP, because you mentioned you're a dog guy. And this is the last game on the board, 6:00 Eastern, right? So everybody's going to want to kind of do that late night special, even though it's not that late, right? Up to 3.5 for Rutgers right now. And there's some 52s, by the way, if you're looking, some 52s. If you like the over, probably 4 of them here on the odds logic screen. BP, talk to me about this USC team, because I don't know what to make of them, right? Eric Musselman goes out there. I think a lot of people had high hopes. It's kind of sitting right around 50% on the year. Dropped 2 straight. Rutgers on the other end has just been on this roller coaster ride all season long. I don't know when to trust them. I don't know when to bet on them or when to bet against them.
So before I was on, you guys were talking about Ohio State, UCLA, and you referenced Ohio State's on your. I feel I had them against Michigan last Sunday, and I think I'm done with them at this point. Yeah. Ohio State, I've won with them a couple times, but I've lost with them too. But is there a harder conference, Kelly, to figure out this year than the Big Ten? I feel that just when you think you know about a team, they lay an egg if they've been playing well, or they come out of nowhere and play well when they've been sticking. So I don't want to get involved with the side on this game. I do agree. By the way, I like how all of our commenters are using the rotation order. That's very helpful.
Yeah, but, we ask. They're so good at following directions. I ask because it's really hard sometimes when you have 150 games. You know, and you got to search really quickly. Yeah, you can do Command F on Apple or Control F to search, but like for odds logic, like if I had to see the rotation number, boom, right there on the left side, I got it. Versus trying to type in the name, you know.
Listen, how people just fall in line when you ask them to do something. I'll say this: USC is going to struggle to defend Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey in this game. That's what I can tell you about USC. I do worry about them defensively. Second straight game, out east. Well, Rutgers, they're off the overtime game against Washington. So I agree with the commenter that over is how I would play this. Again, I think USC is going to struggle to defend Harper and Bailey, and it's just going to naturally lead to more points. USC, I'm not worried about their offense. I do know that. So we should get a lot of points in this game.
As BP mentioned, he and Mark Zinno do the morning wager every Monday through Friday. He also does the Power 5, so tons of free content from him. I don't see it on Twitter as much. I wonder if I have him like shadow banned or something. But I usually stay in his ass about making sure to put his videos out. BP, tell me what else is going on over at WagerTalk.com. Anything you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, so we've been running well recently, Kelly. I mentioned it was a winning day yesterday overall. 4-3 with the 5% win on Arkansas. 2 of the 3 losses were just smaller plays, 2% plays. So we finished up 8 units for the day, which is pretty good. And then before yesterday, we were on a nice 6-0 run during the week. So that's 10-3, our last 13 plays overall. College hoops has been great, 13-5 overall. Soccer, you never forget about soccer, Kelly. Number 1 the last 10. Yeah, I know you. Look, Zinno, once you talk about the morning wager, he got up and left when I broke down a soccer play, which won, by the way, and he bet it. But he got up and left the show when I was breaking down soccer on the morning wager.
Good time to go use the bathroom. I don't blame him. He doesn't need the analysis. If he's just going to bet it, just bet it.
Yes. Well, the reason I like to talk about soccer is number 1 the last 10 months overall. Number 1 with all soccer totals the last 10 months overall. So we're running well on the pitch. Running well in college basketball. I think I'm going. So while you guys were talking, I did zero in on a game for today. It's going to be a smaller play. No big plays today. Like yesterday, we had a ton of plays yesterday. Just going to be the one today. You can get it right there. WT.buzz/BP. Don't forget about that 7-day special. You get 10 days worth of picks for the price of 7. That's a good deal. So if you want to get on board next week, there you go. WT.buzz/BP.
All right, last call for questions before I hit the beach. TikTok. Brian Power, it's always been a pleasure. You are the best. Good luck on the hardwood today, as well as the pitch. Whenever you have another soccer play, you can just text it to me. I'll blindly bet it, and we'll just text back and forth if it wins. Always a good time.
Scared if it loses.
Yeah, and you get the middle finger emoji if it loses.
Yeah.
Brian
I
Power,
take
he's
that.
the
If
best
that's all
player.
I got. That's a ticket. Yes.
Make sure you guys give him a follow. Again, hit that like button. Give us a subscribe. We are here for you guys. As VR likes to say, do some damage. Good luck this week. I will be gone next weekend, but don't worry. Joe Ranieri offered to fill in so that I can take a much needed time off. Art DeCesar's going to be back next week as well. Probably no John Murray, but at least I can get that text from behind the counter. I'll make sure to forward that to whoever's hosting the show on Sunday. Thank you guys again for hanging out with us. We'll see you in 2 weeks.